Jack.
Levi.
The book club from hell.
Hello everyone, this is Jack with the Book Club from Hell, a linguistics collective seeking to translate every work in the English language into Timothy Dexterese. This week's episode is on A Pickle for the Knowing Ones, a collection of articles written by Timothy Dexter and first published in 1802. Dexter was an American businessman born in 1743 in Malden, Massachusetts. He left school at age 8 to work as a farm labourer and worked as a tanner when he was 16. Through a series of bizarre, improbable and extremely lucky business decisions, Dexter became very wealthy and sought to make his mark on the world. A Pickle for the Knowing Ones has been Dexter's most enduring legacy, a collection of his musings on life, philosophy, politics, religion, the family, and numerous complaints about his wife, children, and son-in-law. As Dexter left school at age 8, this book is almost entirely unpunctuated and employs an absolutely bizarre spelling system, although calling it a system might be too generous. If you like what we're doing with this podcast and want to support us, we have a Patreon account, the link to which is in the show notes. People on Patreon can access the notes I make for episodes, so if you want more information on the books or manifestos we've covered, you can go there. Additionally, I published a novel called Tower, which you can find on Amazon or on Apple Books, links also in the show notes. So, if you want to know why Lord Timothy Dexter should be Emperor of America, then listen on. Enjoy. Yeah, he was an American businessman born in 1743 in Massachusetts, and he had very little schooling. He dropped out of school when he was 8, started working as a farm labourer. When he was 16, he was working as a tanner. He first came into money when he was 21 by marrying Elizabeth Frothing,
A widow.
a 32-year-old widow who had a bunch of money. So he got money from her, and Elizabeth will come up a lot because in A Pickle for the Knowing Ones, he just constantly complains about his wife. He never names her. He only ever calls her the ghost.
The
He
ghost.
just refers to her as a ghost. Ghost spelled G-O-S-T. The spelling in this book makes you feel like someone's lobotomizing you while you're reading it.
So he comes into money by marrying a rich widow, and he makes a bunch of well, it seems at the time, dumb business decisions like sending coal to Newcastle.
No, but his first business decision, besides, so you can, depends on if you consider marrying Elizabeth Frothing a business decision. That was capital raising. He was capital raising and getting married. And now the first time he deploys his capital is during the American Revolutionary War. The Continental Congress was, for non-American listeners, a series of legislative bodies for the 13 colonies of Great Britain in North America. They began to issue paper money called Continental Currency. And the value of Continental Currency depreciated a lot during the War of Independence.
So he just bought a bunch of it.
It was like basically worthless, and he bought a shitload of it when it was just completely devalued. And then the US government eventually allowed these notes to be exchanged for US government bonds. I think the federal government only exchanged them at 1% of their face value, but Massachusetts, for some reason, allowed it at 100%. And he lived in Massachusetts, so he made so much money off a business decision that, on the face of it, was just completely stupid. Just the
completely
stupidest
dumb.
thing he could do.
Completely dumb. And there's no way
he couldn't have known that.
Foretold that. It was just completely like, okay, maybe these completely worth it. It's like the dumb person who will buy a bunch of penny stocks.
Yeah. Penny stocks or shit coins. Or speculating in Zimbabwean dollars or something like that.
Yeah, like maybe, they're like, yeah, but they could go up 10x or 100x or 1000x. They could.
But he did that, and not merely did he do it in a state outside of Massachusetts where he would have gotten 1%. He did it in Massachusetts where they were redeemed at 100%. So he also 100x'd what he would have if he lived outside of Massachusetts.
just completely,
cleaned up.
And from that, he were you able to follow his arithmetic on it? Anyways, he made a lot of money.
I didn't follow his arithmetic. There is a part of A Pickle for the Knowing Ones which reminded me a bit of the worst parts of The Art of the Deal, which we read for our previous episode, where Trump, or Tony Schwartz impersonating Donald Trump, is just running through the arithmetic of how much cash he's making on various projects. And Timothy Dexter also does that in the In a Pickle for the Knowing Ones, except it has no punctuation, bizarre spelling, just random letters are capitalized. So it's like reading The Art of the Deal while someone hits you in the head with a shovel.
Yeah, so I really like the fact that he made a bunch of money off just blind speculation on a junk currency.
Okay, so we can't know for sure how blind it was because he didn't document the advice he received. But
yeah, maybe he had the inside scoop.
Yeah, he was doing insider trading.
And then he went on to make other investments. The other investment he made, which I thought was funny, was it he sent a bunch of bed warmers to some country.
Wasn't it to the?
Do you remember?
It was like to the West Indies or something.
Yeah, that's right. To the West Indies,
not a cold place.
A bunch of a bunch of bed warmers to West Indies.
And I think because he'd been told to do this,
but it turns out
people were trying to make him lose money, so they were telling him to undertake these really stupid business ventures.
Turns out that they were able to sell them as ladles to the molasses industry in the West Indies. So they end up just like making it a heap of money. If I follow his reasoning or his arithmetic, and I remember correctly, he said that he made 75% profit on that.
That's pretty good.
He just put a bunch of bed warmers for a cold place like New England, and then send them to a hot place in the West Indies, and then still made money. But then again, maybe you think, well, actually, that's quite innovative. Like, okay, he got lemons and he turned it into ladles.
Yeah, so he made his initial money by marrying and then speculating on government currency and bonds. And then he took that money that he'd made and started a shipping company. And that's where some of his funniest business decisions came in, like the bed warmers thing. He was told to ship coal to Newcastle, as I said earlier. So Newcastle in the UK, where there's a lot of coal mined. And I think ship coal to Newcastle is a saying of doing something really stupid. And someone told him to do that. And so he took them up and he did it. But a miners' strike started. And so they weren't mining any coal. And so he could sell his coal there for tons of money.
Could you imagine how like annoyed his adversaries must have been? Like, they would have been like, what is going on?
This guy's plot armor on. He was told to sell Bibles to the East Indies or to export them there. And when his ship arrived, there were a bunch of missionaries there and they needed to buy the Bibles. And so he made more money that way.
And I think his marketing tactic was to tell the locals that they had to believe it, otherwise they would go to hell.
He sold stray cats to the Caribbean islands where there were local rat problems. And he hoarded whale bones. And then eventually the corset industry started looking for whalebone, and so he could sell the whalebones he'd just been hoarding.
So it's kind of like a series of unfortunate events.
But it worked really well. He really wanted to get involved in local politics in Massachusetts, and no one else was very excited about dealing with Lord Timothy Dexter. And so eventually he lived in Malden for a while, the town there. So the local government gave him the position of the official informer of deer, and apparently there was no deer around where he lived. They just gave him that to make him stop bothering them. And so with all this money, one of the main things he did with this money was make a really, really good house. He bought the house of some socialite. Here it is. Nathaniel Tracy was a local socialite, and I think he bought his house. And I do want to note that in 2023, Nathaniel Tracy has no Wikipedia page, whereas Lord Timothy Dexter has a big Wikipedia page. So no one at that time feeling too snobby about Lord Timothy Dexter has their name remembered like our Lord Timothy.
And then if you can imagine like 18th century MTV Cribs. It's basically with like, really poor taste, nouveau riche guy who just comes into money by good fortune, doesn't have any taste, and then just starts pimping out his mansion.
That's basically what happened. So, to give you an idea of what the house is like, there are pictures of it. Searching Lord Timothy Dexter's house is quite funny, but he started redecorating quite a large house. His house had minarets, a golden eagle on the roof. He had a mausoleum in it, a really big mausoleum for himself. In the garden were 40 wooden statues of famous people, including George Washington, William Pitt, Napoleon Bonaparte, Thomas Jefferson, and 2 statues of Timothy Dexter. And on one of the statues of himself was the inscription, "I am the first in the East, the first in the West, and the greatest philosopher in the Western world."
And he put these statues on these like
big columns,
really big columns.
Spengler would be frothing
what type of column?
What type of columns Timothy Dexter used to put his own statues up in his garden.
And what's the word I'm looking for? I think this is the word. Gouche.
Gosh, yeah.
Gouche, yeah.
He was confident.
No, only in America can you have absolutely no talent and still end up with a baller house.
I feel very, very affectionately towards Timothy Dexter. I'll hear no slander of him. He's just such a bizarre person. It's a combination of a bizarre person who just threaded the needle that seemed to just have stumbled into a lot of money and not merely managed not to lose it despite what his contemporaries were trying to do. They were trying to make him lose money. He just kept making more money. And so he got to express himself to the fullest extent.
However he wanted. Yeah, he just went full, I'm going to imprint like Donald Trump, like I'm going to imprint my personality.
Yeah, imagine
in the
Donald
weirdest
Trump
way.
basically couldn't spell anything. Because, so A Pickle for the Knowing Ones, Dexter wrote towards the end of his life, and it's mostly about how good he is and his thoughts on the world. And he insisted on writing it, and he couldn't spell. The entire there are probably more misspelled words in this book than there are correctly spelled words. There is no punctuation. And when I say no punctuation, I'm not exaggerating. There is just no punctuation. Except for in the first edition, there's the final page is just a block of full stops, commas, exclamation marks, etc. And it's not explained. And then in the second edition of this book, so both of which he just distributed for free because, again, he had so much money. He could just print copies. He could self-publish. He was a self-published author.
Jack is inspired.
I'm inspired by
Timothy Dexter, the OG
self-published author before Amazon KDP existed. He was the OG self-published author, just distributed his book for free. The first edition had this mystery page of punctuation on the back. People complained about the lack of punctuation on it, and so for the second edition, he wrote underneath or above this just block of punctuation at the end of the book that people can just punctuate. Here's your punctuation. Punctuate the book as you like. I'll find the exact quote because it's very, very funny. Yeah, here we go. So he has this block of punctuation and says of it, "They may pepper and salt it as they please." People can pepper and salt this text using this provided punctuation as they please, except
it's pepper.
The spelling of it is they, THAY, may is spelled correctly, pepper, PEPER, and is spelled correctly, salt, SOT, Interestingly, they appears twice in this, and it's spelt differently. So they is spelt either Thay or Thehey, and then please, Plese. This entire book is just so strange, and reading it for an extended period, it's odd because initially it's really jarring, and then your brain kind of adapts and you start to be able to read it. Not comfortably, but you can read it. The lack of punctuation is probably what makes it the hardest to understand, actually. Makes you appreciate how useful full stops are.
Yeah, even just full stops is incredibly helpful.
Extremely useful.
When I was highlighting things for the episodes, like quotes, I was not sure where to start.
Yeah, exactly. You don't know where to start
the quote. I'm pretty sure I want to quote something around here.
Yeah, it'll be complaining about
just eyeball
Catholics or Freemasons or something, and you're not sure where to stop the quote. Because it just keeps going till the end of the book.
I like that on his Wikipedia page, it says, known for uncommon good fortune and eccentricity.
Lord Timothy Dexter is a champion. I just love this man.
The other thing, before we get into quotes from the book, I really like, in my edition of the book, which I assume is on Lord Gutenberg, it's got a picture of him with his dog.
Oh, there are some really good illustrations.
And an absurdly big hat. For some reason, he just has an enormous hat, and he's got his little ugly dog. And in my version, it's got a preface by somebody who was writing a little bit after him. Also comments about his dog, who he says the dog had no hair and was just all black and ugly and just strange and eccentric. And he said is as different from other dogs as his owner is from other men. And then it's got a little illustration of the dog at the end. And you just know that this dog was just an ugly little runt. Just a strange little dog. Probably just followed this man around all the time.
I wish that Lord Timothy Dexter had been made emperor. He's got a section in this where he puts forward his case as to why he should be made emperor.
Emperor.
Yeah, why he should be emperor.
Emperor of America.
And he keeps spelling America in so many different ways. And there are a few points where it took me probably about 10 seconds to work out that he was speaking about America. Oh, actually, I do want to mention, before we start just quoting him, for some reason, at one point in his life, he just kept telling everyone that his wife was dead, even though she was alive, and obviously alive. And whenever people would come to his house and see that his wife was alive, he would insist to them that it was her ghost, that they were only seeing her ghost and she was haunting him. And in this text, he keeps referring to his wife as the ghost, Ghost, the ghost.
And one other story before we start. It's also to do with his wife, and then I'm happy to get into the text. And it says this in the preface. It says, at some point he decided to fake his own death and have a funeral to himself when he's a bit older. And he invited everybody in town and his family. And he even had like a large, really ornate,
and it was in his mausoleum. It was in the mausoleum that he built in his house for himself.
He built a mausoleum for himself in his house, and then invited the town to his own funeral, and only told one or two people about the fact that he wasn't actually dead. And then he watched the funeral and had somebody deliver like a really bombastic eulogy, all this sort of thing, and people crying and stuff. And then the attendees only realized that he wasn't actually dead because they overheard him lashing his wife,
caning his wife because she wasn't crying.
Because she wasn't crying. This woman who, by the sounds of it, was just taken for a ride by the strange man who married her for her money.
Then invested all the money into Continental Currency at the end of the American War of Independence.
Kept irresponsibly gambling their fortune and just bumbling into more money, and then claimed that she was dead and called her a ghost when other visitors came over. This woman didn't cry at his funeral, so he caned her.
Like, this guy was the equivalent of someone who just bought a shitload of Dogecoin during the COVID pandemic and then sold it at the peak completely by accident and made a huge amount of money.
But then also like mistreated his wife. Yeah, he was a very strange person. Oh, and apparently his son was not crying, and he was about to start caning his son, but then he apparently mistook his son's drunkenness. His son like fell over or something. He mistook that for grief, and so he didn't cane his son.
He had a son and a daughter, Samuel and Nancy. And Nancy in particular will become important because she married a man, Abraham Bishop, that Dexter just complains about to no end in this book. He just continuously complains about. I think Abraham Bishop must have beaten him up or something at some point because he just keeps talking about how Abraham Bishop assaulted him. Now that we know a bit about his life, A Pickle for the Knowing Ones was written when Dexter was 50, and it was self-published in 1802. At first, it was distributed for free, but eventually it was popular enough that Dexter just started charging people for it because he's got that business mindset. He's got a nose for a good deal.
I guess in that way he was using a kind of freemium model.
Yeah, exactly.
It really wasn't innovative. He was 200 years ahead of.
He gave people a taste.
Industry.
It was like the shareware model, where you got to play the first few levels of Quake, and then they'd ask you to fork out for the last 2 chapters of it.
Or just Blood Gulch.
Yeah.
And Halo.
Yeah, he would have definitely been invited to Gulch Gulch, I reckon. Timothy Dexter.
Oh, for sure.
You can imagine him there with Dagny Taggart, John Galt, Timothy Dexter.
Dumb business decisions.
Timothy Dexter sucking up all the local building materials to build another mausoleum for himself and more statues of himself. Him withdrawing his labour from America was what ended up destroying it, destroying the regime of the parasites. They no longer had Lord Timothy Dexter. He's a
just
Randian
this
hero.
Man spent probably something like 40 years of his life just walking around being weird.
Walking around being weird and stumbling into money, just tripping over into bags and bags of money.
And the entire time he must have, well, not must have, he seemed like a very vain person.
Oh, if A Pickle for the Knowing Ones is anything to go by, he's incredibly vain. So much of it is him talking about how smart he is, how wise he is, how much money he has, how nice his house is.
and again, like the argument that I made with Trump is, objectively speaking, he had the results.
Yeah, Timothy Dexter.
So you can say that Timothy Dexter or Donald Trump is are stupid, but then again, who are the ones walking around with baller houses?
Who have got Wikipedia pages? Lord Timothy Dexter died in 1806. He still has a Wikipedia page.
Yeah, thousands of people are going to know about Timothy Dexter because we're
through our efforts. We're just riding on his coattails.
Because we're spreading the meme of that man's memory.
God bless Lord Timothy.
God bless. God bless Lord Timothy. So have we got any like nice quotes? So broadly speaking, maybe we can just pick.
Let's just go through quotes we like and talk about.
There's not a lot of structure to this.
No, there's no structure.
But there are some major themes. So the major themes are basically complaining about his wife,
the ghost. I don't think he ever names her. She's always just the ghost. And it took me a while to realize that he was talking about his wife, but then when I went back and read other instances of him talking about ghosts, it suddenly made more sense. He was just complaining about his wife.
Some of the other major themes are him talking about his business ventures and then him giving out political advice.
Yeah, he gives a lot of political advice to like Napoleon Bonaparte and George Washington. And he keeps calling George Washington
kind of a political treatise. Yeah, he keeps on referring to him as his
father.
The
king. He keeps calling Washington the king.
He likes George Washington and
he really likes Napoleon as well. Bonaparte.
Yeah. Bonaparte, yeah. So he's, man, what a strange little town that must have been.
Yeah, because I think he lived in Newburyport for most of his life, and that's where his giant house was.
Yeah, could you imagine like knowing this kid when you were growing up, this like bumbling buffoon doesn't doesn't finish school, just goes and becomes a tanner or whatever. Which, whatever, it's fine profession. But probably, presumably, a kid. You know how sometimes you meet people and you just get the sense, okay, you're going places.
Yeah, this person's going to go somewhere.
You're going to go somewhere, like, I don't know what you're going to do, but sure, whatever you do, you're going to end up doing something cool. And then you meet other people the exact opposite. And you're like, all right, man, try not to die.
Yeah, can you imagine knowing him, like being one of the farm labourers working with him and then leaving town for a bit and then coming back 30 years later and thinking,
Lord
I wonder
Timothy
what
Dexter.
Tim's up to.
Yeah, he's probably dead. He's probably drunk in a ditch somewhere. And then he comes back, man, have you seen Tim's house?
What the fuck?
Dude, greatest philosopher in the West. Sold coal to Newcastle and literally made a fortune.
Yeah. Have you read Timothy's new book, Pickle for the Knowing Ones?
It's a masterpiece. This one's going to go down in the annals of history. Turns out, actually did.
Yeah, it did. Because well, this is the thing. If you write something that is truly original, it might be remembered. And as strange as this book is, there's just nothing like it. The combination of his story, the subject matter, and how it's written, there's just nothing quite like a Pickle for the Knowing Ones. This is so bizarre.
It's really good. So should we start pulling out some
just more stuff about him? Do you remember how he hired a poet laureate for himself in the style of European princes? His name was Jonathan Plumer, and he was a fish merchant and an amateur poet who wrote poems about how good Timothy Dexter was. And some of the poems are included in a Pickle for the
yeah. There's one at the end. I actually want to read that one at the end.
The poem is really funny. And it was normally punctuated, and it felt like such whiplash getting used to Dexterese and then reading something that was spelled and punctuated normally.
Yeah, we'll have to read that.
So I've got two poems about him. One is really long, and he published it in a newspaper. He bought a bunch of space in a newspaper to publish a gigantic poem about himself. Or do you want the short one?
I kind of want to read both. I want to read one of them. You do. I'll read the short one. You do the long one.
Okay. Lord Dexter is a man of fame. Most celebrated is his name. More precious far than gold that's pure. Lord Dexter live for evermore. His noble house, it shines more bright than Lebanon's most pleasant height. Never was one who stepped therein who wanted to come out again. His house is filled with sweet perfumes, rich furniture doth fill his rooms, inside and out it is adorned, and on the top an eagle's formed. His house is white and trimmed with green, for many miles it may be seen. It shines as bright as any star, the fame of it has spread afar. Lord Dexter, thou, whose name alone shines brighter than King George's throne. Thy name shall stand in books of fame, and princes shall his name proclaim. Lord Dexter hath a coach beside, in pomp and splendour he doth ride. The horses champ the silver bit, and throw the foam around their feet. The images around him stand, for they were made by his command. Looking to see Lord Dexter's come, with fixed eyes they see him home. 4 lions stand to guard the door, with their mouths open to devour all enemies who do disturb Lord Dexter or his shady grove. Lord Dexter, like King Solomon, hath gold and silver by the ton, and bells to churches he hath given, to worship the great King of heaven. His mighty deeds, they are so great, he's honoured both by church and state. And when he comes, all must give way to let Lord Dexter bear the sway. When Dexter dies, all things shall droop. Lord East, Lord West, Lord North shall stoop. And then Lord South with pomp shall come, and bear his body to the tomb. His tomb most charming to behold, 1,000 sweets it doth unfold. When Dexter dies, shall willows weep, and mourning friends shall fill the street. May Washington immortal stand, may Jefferson by God's command support the right of all mankind. John Adams, not a whit behind. America with all your best. America with all your host. Lord Dexter in a bumper toast. May he enjoy his life in peace, and when he's dead, his name not cease. In heaven may he always reign, for there's no sorrow, sin, nor pain. Unto the world I leave the rest, for to pronounce Lord Dexter blessed. It's just
the poor
that
man
actually
who was
almost all the themes. He didn't complain about his wife in there, but besides that, that's basically all the themes of a Pickle for the Knowing Ones. Him talking about how good his house is, that he has a nice coach, name dropping famous American political leaders and saying that they know him, comparing himself to King Solomon, King George. It's just so good. It's just so good.
All right, I'll read out the short one.
Yeah, give us the short one.
Behold, all nature stands aghast to hear thy fame from east to west. How great, how grand of thee we hear, thou man of sense, thou eastern star. All men inquire, but few can tell, how thou in science doth excel. Great philosophic genius we, the meanest reptiles, bow the knee. At thy majestic at thy majestic shrine we shrink. What can we do, or say, or think, when contemplating on thy worth, which hath astonished all the earth? Great Dexter, did the world do right, thy name would shine with brilliant light. Each would declare thy wondrous fame, and thou at Dexter's mighty name. And shout at Dexter's mighty name.
That's just so good. It takes real confidence to have your own poet laureate and then to publish his poems about you in the newspaper.
I'm kind of surprised that Trump doesn't have his own poet laureate.
That is surprising. I guess so. Lord Dexter really did seem to be trying to model himself on at least his impression of the European aristocracy. They're insisting that he was Lord Dexter, the Marquis of Newburyport, which is how he introduces himself in this book. I don't think Trump as consciously is trying to base his behavior or his bearing on that of the European aristocracy, but there's always time. He could still try.
All right. Let's see if I can find some interesting quotes here.
Oh, what about this? So he gets philosophical. We'll just be reading out quotes now. So there's no structure to this book. It's just this list of his musings on various things. And after each of them, he signs with his own name.
Yeah.
I don't really get it.
There was one where he just said T.D-R. He even contracted Dexter.
Yeah. And he keeps spelling it differently. And some of them he addresses to all men or to all wise men. It's just so strange. Anyway, so quoting these is... I'm not sure. How should we do it with quoting? Should we pronounce the words normally or should we pronounce them as they're spelled?
We should even try to put on the accent.
Yeah, okay. So we'll try to pronounce them as they're spelled
like
to give listeners some sense of what it's like to read this. But I highly recommend at least just reading through a little bit of it to get a sense of what it's like. So he's talking about leadership. What is a president? Answer: a king Boniparty. I think that means Bonaparte. The Great has as much power as a king and ought to have, and it is a massy. He has for the good of mankind. He has as much power as any king. For grat ways, back there must be a head somewhere, or the peopel is lost. Lick wild geese when they lose the gander.
Yes, Timothy.
It's also that he keeps alternating and spelled A-N-D or just the and symbol, and he just keeps capitalizing random letters, which makes it even stranger to read.
At least he sticks to capitalizing letters at the beginning of words.
Yeah, no capitalizations within a word.
He did the bare minimum.
Yeah, okay, yeah. So he respects some grammatical conventions. I really liked all the different spellings of Bonaparte.
Bonaparte.
In this book. I think my favourite is Bonnie Party as 2 words.
That is annoying when he'll split a word up.
Yeah, he does split some, because I think he talks about America sometimes, or something to that effect, meaning America, and it took me a while to grok that he meant America. Oh, what about this? He talks about how he was made Lord by the people, how he became Lord Timothy Dexter. In reality, apparently, he just told people to start calling him this. But he's rewritten history in a pickle for the knowing ones, and I believe a pickle for the knowing ones. I am the first lord in the United States of a mercary, now of Newburyport. It is the voise of the peopel, and I can't help it, and so let it goue. Now as I must be lord, there will follow many more lords, pretty soune, for it don't hurt a cat, nor the mouse, nor the sun, nor the water, nor the air. Then goue on all easy. Now bonds broken, all is well in love. Now I begin to lay the cornerstone with grat remembrance for my father George Washington, spelt with a J. The grat herow, 17 centuries past before we found so good a father to his children, and now gone to rest now! Exclamation mark. Oh, he has an exclamation mark.
Yeah,
there's some punctuation. We found it. There's an exclamation mark. There's just this one random exclamation mark.
Here's an excerpt where he is talking about humans or man's place in the world. If you can bear the troth, I will tell the troth. Man is the best animal and the worst. All men are more or less the divil, but there it sit of odds, some half, some 3/4, the other part beast of different kinds of beasts, some one thing and some another, some like a dog, some lick horses, some bear, some cats, some lions, some lick owls or owls, some a monkey, some wildcat, some lamb, some a dove, some a hog, some a ox, some a snake. I want desipons to be done away, but they won't never be. As long os priest ridden, what down the priest fetch to the devil all their hairs, old and new, more or less the devil I liked to say. So devil preaches to devils, rebuking sin, keep it up, 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 saith the hypocrites, mockers of God, habits and custom is the odds max the difference. I sees God in all places, the God of nature. In all things we live and move in God. He is the God of nature. All nature is God. Take one element from us, one of the four, take the fear of the water or air or earth. We are gone, so we live in God. Now lest us all be good children, dow all right, things right. The strong must bear the infirmities of the wicked. Children, keep up tight laws, draw the reins little harder, stop thieves as fast as you can. Bad trade, shoeing 9 numbers was rot in 23 hours. When I had hold of the pen, 5 hours and 35 minutes, assortment in good a shop.
So if people don't want to bother reading this, which I recommend people do read this. Imagine that, but for 30 pages, and that's basically what reading this book's like. Because without punctuation,
glad it was only 30 pages,
except for that one exclamation mark I found, you don't know where to stop. It's just this constant barrage of just Lord Timothy Dexter's thoughts, and how he'll just change subject so suddenly. It's really disorienting until you acclimatize to it.
I'm not sure what to make of that.
I think there's a section here where he's proposing some sort of international government, but it's really hard to be sure. I quote, In short metre, if agreeable, I form a good and peaceable government on my land in Newburyport. Complete, I take 3 presidents, Hampshire governor, all to Now New York, and the great minister John Jay is 1, that max 2 in that state. The king of Grat Britain, Mr. Pitt Ralphus King Cross, over to France, Louis the 16. As the 16, and then the great body party, the great and their signatour Crow Biddy. I command peace and the greatest brotherly love, and not fade be linked together with that best of trow love, so as to govern all nations on the face of the globe, not to tyrannize over them, but to put them to order if any despot shall arise as to boundaries or any matters of importance. It is left France and Grat Britain and a mercary to be mercary, I'm pretty sure is America, to be settled. A Congress to be always in France, all despots, is to be thus settled, and this may be done. There will be less powers, then all wars done away. Therefore I have the lamb to lay down with the lion. Now this may be done if thus 3 powers would aid Gerry to lay what is called devil one side, and not carry the gentleman pack horse any longer, but shake him off as dust on your feet and laugh at him.
Yep.
He's proposing world peace.
It's weird because
can you imagine being Louis 16 in France and reading that and going, yeah, you know what?
Yes, somehow he actually sends like a copy of the book to Louis the 16th. Louis
no,
16th is reading
Laos 16.
Laos 16.
Or Bonnie Party.
I've got a short section here that I want to read. Let's see if I can figure out what he's actually talking about. Okay, so I ask for. God damn it! I'm immediately tripped up by his spelling.
It's really hard to read these out loud without tripping up.
I ask forgiveness of the world of mankind for telling the truth. I mean no hurt to a fly, only when he bits me, then I kills the fly. If I can, I have been my one Trompter 14 years. My Trompter is dead. What is Trompter? I don't know. My Trompter is dead. Having so many wounds in face and on my head, I dow it make a good laugh to keep my spirits from sinking. Pity me, all good people, amen. Forder, I married widow Frothingham. I think I married a widow. And Forder, I married widow Frothingham. She had 4
but her name
children.
Was Frothing. It wasn't Frotheringham. He just spelled his wife's name. He just got his wife's name completely wrong.
She had 4 children. The whole of all their sats was short of $1,300. This woman growed mad. She said she must go to hell, go flirting, for I have fined against the Holy Ghost on putting bells, since she was making way with herself. In 3 months, I got the best minister in town to lay the ghost. He prayed hearty, but by the way, when he says the ghost, he means
it's his wife.
His wife. To lay the ghost, he prayed hearty, but could not lay the serpent. Only in part she has been crazy every since. It is a wonder I am alive. 2 children sucked her breast. It is hereditary. 2 children married now live upon me being disordered. They may beat me often with death clume. And the old ghost tell bad to say I besides under circumstances I must coot and room sell the one of the first places almost in the world for I am in great fear of my life being taken away. Such blows I have had from 2 or 3 ghosts in my family is worth 1,200 hogsets of ghee matter. Best shuggers, even a Saxton to take the blows. I wouldn't for $50 million. Words can't express the bloody war in my family. 3 ghosts, all noise robbing of me. I must sell with tears in my eyes. I can't see to write any more. Farewell, I say goodbye. T. Dexter. I'm pretty sure when he's referring to ghosts, that's his wife and his 2 children.
And I
don't know what to make.
For a while, I wasn't sure if he was talking about that his wife had died, but no, I'm pretty sure he just calls her a ghost and when he complains about her.
Yeah.
And I was wrong earlier when I said he never names his wife. So he did attempt to name his wife once here.
I married Widow Fotheringham.
He just completely fucked her name up.
And then it's got a little picture of his ugly little dog.
What about this, actually? This is a really, really good... This is a really quick quote. He's firing shots at people who make fun of him. He wants his enemies, so those that mock him, to feel ashamed. I quote, I wants to make my enemies grin in time, lick a cat over a hot pudding and goue away, and hang their heads down like a dog bin after sheep guilty. He wants them to hang their heads in shame. Yeah, there's that section where he talks about how he made his money, which is kind of funny because, as I said earlier, it's kind of reminiscent of parts of The Art of the Deal, but just run through the crazy filter, but much, much more discordant and disorienting. He also complains about people who have gone to university quite a lot. Yes, yeah. What about this quote where he says that people who go to university just lie and cheat and don't pay for anything? Is all that has been to college, spelled college, goue with slippers and promise to pay and never pay, only with a lie. I guess 4/5 is college lant or college learnt or devil learnt or pretended to be honest, Freemason, but to the contrary, forgive me for guessing. I hope it is not so. The learned is for loaves and little fishes.
Yes.
There you have it.
Yeah, here's another good one of him complaining about his wife. A good laugh. He spells laugh L-A-F-E, so laugh. A good laugh is better than crying. A clam will cry, and water when they are out of their element. So we the same. If I had not the ghost in my house, I would, give light to my brothers and sisters and have a peace all over the world and beat the troth into my friends, who good it is, who honest it would be, and who mankind has been imposed upon, and who they have been blinded with untruths, ghosts, and Mr. Divils. There is now none of that order. All lie in the Messianic, if they wilt make a book of truth. Not entirely sure what he's saying, but I have a suspicion.
I'm pretty sure Messianic is Masonic because he keeps talking about Freemasons.
Masonic, yeah, okay.
And when he talks about Freemasons, he often just throws in calling someone a Mason.
And he says, if I had not the ghost in my house, I would give light to my brothers and sisters and have a peace all over the world. And he's saying that
so
if it were for his wife, there would be world peace. Insane.
His complaints about his wife and his daughter, his son-in-law. So his daughter married a man called Abraham Bishop that he really hates and complains about him constantly. And his complaints about his wife and Abraham Bishop are some of the funniest parts of this book. He also complains about priests a lot. What about this? I wish the priest knowed as much as I think I do. Their hearts would leap up to glory to be so ready for the time of rejoicing, spelled regoicing. If only the priests knew as much as Lord Timothy Dexter.
Do you have any other quotes?
I have so many quotes. Oh, he's talking about how he was beaten up by a lawyer, and he talks about it at length. And I'm not sure if the lawyer is Abraham Bishop or not, but some lawyer beat up Timothy Dexter. I quote, "No soul savage, I think Sauage is savage. No savage would beat a man, as I was beaten almost to death. I did not know how these men came to keep sage lawyer from quite killing of me, till some time after 3 men saw the axon of the bloody scene without massy, and carried sage Dexter into the house, sun fainting or near to it. See and behold the awful sight, bleeding and blind of one eye, two spelt TWOUE, browsings in 2 hours at least, now laws in this part of the world, now part of the world, a man of money, to live those I lend money to, sinned a lawyer, and others they use me, the worst it makes enemy." Yeah, that's right. He complains a lot too about the people he lends money to, that they don't pay him back. And to be fair, if I wanted someone to lend me money and probably be able to just completely default on my debt, I probably would do it from Lord Timothy Dexter. Because it sounds like he didn't do anything. He just complained about them in his book.
Yeah, I suppose he...
What about he complains that he gave his wife $10,000 and she never thanked him? He complains about that a lot. There's this section where he'd published some articles in the newspaper, and the newspaper editor had punctuated them and fixed up the spelling. And it's a really weird feeling going from pure Timothy Dexter to Timothy Dexter run through someone who was literate. There's a really good part. This is a philosophical tract.
The Impartial Herald.
And it's spelled and punctuated, so it's also way easier to read. I quote, "Whereas many philosophers have judged or guessed at many things around this world, and so on. Now I suppose I may guess, as it is guessing times, I guess the world is one very large living creature, and always was, and always will be without any end, from everlasting to everlasting, and no end. What grows on this large creature is trees, and many other things. In the room of hair the rocks is moulds. This is called land, where the hair grows, the belly the sea. All kinds of fish is the worms in the belly. This large body wants dressing to get our living of this creature, and by industry we get a living. We in all the animal creation is less than fleas in comparison on the back or belly of this very large immense body. Among the hairs to work this great body is that of nature, past finding out. All we know is we are here, we come into the world crying and go out groaning. Man is the master beast on the earth. In the sea, the whale is the head fish. The minim is the smallest fish. The great fish eat up the little ones, and so on. Not only destroy one another, but they are master over the whole of beasts and fish, even over a lion. Therefore, man is the masterly beast and the worst of the whole. They know the most, and act the worst according to what they know. Seeing mankind so bad by nature, I think when the candle goes out, men and women is done. They will lay as dirt or rocks till the great gun fires, and when that goes off, the gun will be so large that the gun will contain 900 million tons of the best of good powder. Then that will shake and bring all the bones together. Then the world will be to an end. All kinds of music will be going on. Funding systems will be laid aside. The melody will be very great. Now, why can't you all believe the above written, as well as many other things to be true, as well as what was set forth in the last sentinel concerning digging up a frog 25 feet below the surface, and where it was most as hard as a rock? There was his shape, like taking a stone out of a rock. This is from a minister. Now, why won't you believe me as well?
It's like, even when somebody intervened and put some punctuation around it, you're still just like, what the hell is this guy talking about?
So it really demonstrates that the problem is not merely one of not having learned to spell properly, because, yeah, as he said, even when it's spelled and punctuated properly by someone else, his train of thought is so runaway. He just keeps moving between subjects without telling you that he's changing subjects. He'll just suddenly start talking about, okay, so broadly speaking, you've got his theory about the world, how the world is a giant body and the hair is the land, and then he goes on to man being the worst of beasts. And then he suddenly flicks to complaining about people not believing him, even though they believed that someone had dug up a frog from really deep underground. Can you imagine talking to this man? Because these written things, this is when he sat down and thought through what he was putting onto paper. He had to consider it. Because they didn't have word processors back then. So he needed to at least somewhat consider what he was putting down onto paper. What would he have been like just talking? When he was even less constrained.
His wife was completely sick of him.
She must have been so sick of it.
She must be like completely fed up with his shit. Like I bet she regretted marrying this guy. And the thing is, what was going through this woman's mind when she had a bunch of wealth? She was a widower,
and he had no money,
and he didn't have any money. Like, why did this woman marry this guy?
She knew he was going places. She knew he'd be the Lord Timothy Dexter, Marquis of Newport.
There's just no explanation given. Like, he married this woman, came from nothing, married a woman with money, and then just like didn't like her, but took her money.
Speaking of his wife, here's a good quote about her. I was married to the Ghost, 35 last May. I have been in hell all the time.
So they obviously didn't like each other. What's going on? An eccentric little couple.
What about the part where he seems to be hinting that he was wanting to become a Freemason, but his wife wouldn't let him? I want to acknowledge that I could be wrong in my interpretation of this text. It's sort of hard to tell because he also does complain about Freemasons in it, but I think he was saying that he wanted to become a Freemason, but his wife wouldn't let him become a Freemason. He keeps talking about how he's been in hell for 35 years, married to his wife. What about this? Now to all honest men, to pity me that I have been in hell 35 years in this world with the Ghost, a woman I married and have 2 children now living. Abram Bishop married my daughter. Since the trouble is such that words can't be expressed, 9 years disordered for a ton of silver for 3 months. I could not have the Ghost in my pallies. Sleep not to be had. Now to save my life I will sell. If not, I will let the house. It is as noted as any house in the oil shoals. And further in the world, or since Noah's ark and since the flood, taking in myself Finley, such a place nowhere in the world, all goes with it. Hoses, carriages, all but plate and goels, and reserve the Holy Bible and 1 bouc more. My old head has wore out 3 bodies. It would take a jury of doctors 1 hour to find and count the scars on my head, given by the Ghost and others. Amen spelt men. Clean Trouth, T. Dexter. Joune 12, 1805. I'm pretty sure he's offering to sell the house so he can get away from his wife, daughter, and Abraham Bishop. He says his house is one of the nicest houses in the world since Noah's Ark and the flood.
It's just littered in statues and pictures of him.
Oh, what about this?
And I like that he admits that his wife hits him over the head. I bet she bloody did. Pull out the pan.
I'm sure she would have been so sick of him.
Shut up. Shut up, Timothy.
What about this? He announces the death of the devil and the Pope and says that he should be emperor. I say the great Mr. Divil that has so many nicknames, a friend to the priests, now is dead all, and the Pope likewise, and the founders of Masonic a cheat foul of war and gratness of hell, dead priests, dead and lawyers, damned, dead Abraham. So the spelling of Abraham Bishop is Abraham, spelt A space Braham, Bishop spelt B space B-I space A-S-S. Bishop is Babias. Abraham Babias dead, and all the friends of mankind sings praises. He's publishing where he just says he wants his son-in-law dead and everyone will sing praises when he's dead. Sing praises that we are the grat family of mankind, now out of hell, delured from fire and smoak bourning, forever now all in heaven, upon earth now all friends now, for a day of rejoicing all over the world as one great family, all nations to be united, no more wars for 50 years and longer. I recommend peace, a congress in France, and when we are ripe for an emperor or an emperor in this country, call for me to take the helm, or a consular in the affair of troth. Amen and amen. He should be emperor. Emperor Lord Timothy Dexter. There's another really long section where he proposes that he should be emperor of the world. Sometimes only emperor of America, sometimes the emperor of the world.
He backed himself.
He did back himself. Oh, what about this? He's talking about the soul. And this is a part that was published in the newspaper, and an editor edited at least the spelling and punctuation, but left Lord Timothy's train of thought intact. How great the soul is! Do not you all wonder and admire to see and behold and hear? Can you all believe half the truth, and admire to hear the wonders how great the soul is? Only behold, past finding out. Only see how large the soul is, that if a man is drowned in the sea, what a great bubble comes up out of the top of the water. The last of the man dying under water, this is wind, is the soul that is the last to ascend out of the deep to glory. It is the breath from on high, doth go on high to glory. The bubble is the soul, our young fellows for gunning, for the good of bodies and souls. Even when someone's doing their best, he's pretty hard to follow. Yeah, I've got a really long quote complaining about his wife, but we've heard a fair number of them complaining about his wife. More complaining about the Freemasons and Abraham Bishop. We've heard him complaining about those two things as well.
So he didn't like his son-in-law, he didn't like his wife, he didn't like the Catholics, and he didn't like the Freemasons.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think he liked lawyers very much.
No, he didn't like that. He didn't like anyone who'd been educated. So I have more quotes, but they're all on these same themes that we've already covered.
and I feel like you guys have a sense of what it's like reading the goddamn book.
It really feels like you're losing your mind until you acclimatize.
Yeah, it's completely insane.
And then it becomes easier. And then you'll hit a section where a newspaper editor punctuated and spelled it properly. And then it feels really, really unsettling. It's like going from 144p Timothy Dexter to 4K
for like 30 seconds.
Ultra high definition 4K 8K Timothy Dexter,
and then it drops back down.
Yeah, and then and then the internet slows and you drop back down. Yeah, I don't have much more to add.
Yeah, is there
about this?
Can we add?
It's an exceptionally strange text. I recommend that people read it. It's free. It's short. You don't have to read the whole thing. You only need to read a little bit, and you get the idea.
It's free for on Project Gutenberg.
Yeah, so there's the Project Gutenberg has the first edition just written out as the original was. This is the full Pickle. You can get the full Pickle experience, or you can go to lordtimothydexter.com, where they offer. I think it's the 4th edition of this. And they offer the full Pickle, which is just the original text, or the half Pickle, which is side by side the original text and a modern English translation of the text.
So you can try to understand what he's actually going on about. And there was something like 8 editions or something, wasn't there?
Yeah, he kept printing them. There was such demand that he just kept making them.
People were just like, what? You got to check this out. It was seriously viral. It spread by word of mouth. It's like, he had to kickstart it a bit.
This man was a champion. Imagine what he would be like in 2023. He would probably be an accidental crypto billionaire.
Oh, yeah, for sure. You know what's funny as well is his book is being read, not sold, I suppose.
No, but it's still being read
200 years later.
We still know his name.
Yeah, that's insanely impressive. Just think about how many people have books that are read at all, let alone 200 years after it's been published.
I hope Tower is as famous 200 years after my death as A Pickle for the Night.
You made a couple of mistakes with that, Jack. You used too much punctuation.
Yeah, maybe I'll just go through and delete all punctuation.
Yeah, the second edition.
ChatGPT probably could reformat the text in that if I give it A Pickle for the Knowing Ones as a style guide and say, could you please rewrite Tower in the style of Lord Timothy Dexter?
You should take every single piece of punctuation and move it to an appendix at the end.
Yeah, move it to the end of the book. That would improve the reading experience.
And then ask ChatGPT to rewrite it in the style of Lord Timothy Dexter.
What a man. What a man. We are blessed for this man to have lived and for him to have left so much behind in A Pickle for the Knowing Ones.
He won. I think he won life.
Yeah, he really did.
I guess the law of large numbers with just how many billions of people there have been. Every now and then you're just going to get somebody who just through no merit of their own just has a great life and then fucks off.
You're going to get someone who is very odd, gets the resources to fully express that oddness, and then to narrow down the number of people who fall into this category even further, the way that they made that money is really, really funny in itself.
Yeah, I think he definitely is unique. I can't think of anybody, any comparable person.
Yeah, he's sui generis. There's no one and nothing like Lord Timothy Dexter and A Pickle for the Knowing Ones.
So he gets points for authenticity and originality.
I don't even know, why is it called A Pickle for the Knowing Ones? Because he talks about knowing ones a lot in this book, as in people who agree with him are knowing ones. But I don't know why a pickle. Everything about this book is a mystery. It's also, for some reason, the title of the book is spelled correctly. Because there are so many ways he could have spelt A Pickle for the Knowing Ones, but he picked the correct spelling for some reason.
And it was originally called, or also known as, I don't know if this was the original, just another title he used, Plain Truths in a Homespun Dress.
Mostly complaining about his wife.
Yeah, so that's A Pickle for the Knowing Ones.
I recommend it. I recommend you read at least a few sections. It's really fun.
If you just want to have a weird afternoon, like smoke some weed and then sit down and listen to, on YouTube, there's LibriVox, LibriVox, LibriVox. This good YouTube channel with lots of weird audiobooks on it. They have read it, but the woman who read the book did a really good job of putting on the accent. You get a sense of what he might have sounded like with his accent, because I suppose,
really?
Yeah, like 19th century New England, they still would have had a kind of like close to like English or Scottish accent still. So she kind of read it in that accent. And yeah, it was really good. She did a good job. So you could smoke some weed or take some mushies, sit down and listen to A Pickle for the Knowing Ones. And just go crazy.
Lose your mind.
No, don't do that. That sounds dangerous.
So
it's too much stimulation for one mind to handle.
It's a whole lot of knowledge in this book. In terms of our next episode,
Yeah, what's our next episode?
We might be doing Columbine.
Oh shit!
A complete U-turn. What have we had for the past few episodes? We've had the Art of the Deal. Yeah, the Art of the Deal, Killdozer, A Pickle for the Knowing Ones, Columbine.
Yeah, that's a bit of a weird mix.
Yeah, I can't really pick an ideological thread between those things.
Centric.
Yes.
Should we do Columbine or should we do something else? What do you reckon? Columbine.
We can talk about it.
Yeah, let's talk about it. But let's go with Columbine.
Yeah.
Okay, well, I don't have anything else to say.
I don't have anything else to say about this book.
Lord Timothy Jack. Lord Jack Dexter. King of Chester. Go buy his book and
go buy my book.
And I don't know, like, thanks for listening.
Yeah, thanks for listening.